Shahbaz Sharif is accused of money laundering. What is he accused of having done? How did he launder money out of the country?
Well, Shahbaz Sharif is currently facing two cases of assets beyond known sources of income and money laundering. One is by the Federal Investigation Agency of Pakistan, and one is by the National Accountability Bureau. The case of FIA, Federal Investigation Agency, relates to about 16 billion, and it was a scheme whereby the Shahbaz Sharif family, they have investigated just one of the business concerns, which is Ramzan Sugar Mill. And in Ramzan Sugar Mill, the low-level employees, the low-wage employees, accounts were opened in their names. What is mentioned in that FIA Chalan, the FIA investigation report, is that the bribe money used to be collected at 96H Model Town, one of the residence come office of the Sharif family, and then these low-wage employees, they had these Benami accounts which were in the name of these low-wage employees. Money used to be deposited in those accounts, and finally they used to land in the accounts of either Mr. Hamza Shahbaz Sharif, Mr. Suleiman Shahbaz Sharif, or Mr. Shahbaz Sharif himself. And there is one specific case. There are so many cases of these employees, all these bulky. In fact, these files which you see here, this is the FIA Chalan, and all these are the annexures, the banking statements which are linked to it. It gives the names, it gives the banking documents, the chalans, everything which is mentioned in these, all the banking record, the names of the low-wage employees, the fictitious transactions which used to take place, and how the money from these low-wage employees, they used to deposit in different accounts, and eventually the beneficiaries were either Shahbaz Sharif, Hamza Shahbaz, or Suleiman Shahbaz Sharif. So this precise investigation by FIA through banking records proves as to how this entire scheme from 2008 to 2018, a decade of rule of Mr. Shahbaz Sharif in Punjab, and as to what the Sharif family was doing, that is unearthed in this particular investigation. It is still under trial in different lower courts, and considering the legal system in Pakistan, it might take quite a long time.
Thanks. These low-level employees were paid money. I mean, wouldn't they have been taxed on that money?
No, they're like cashing in jobs.
They were on benefits in EOBI, Employees Old Age Benefit Institute, because they were getting very less salary. About someone was getting around 15,000 rupees, someone was getting 20,000 rupees, someone was a PN in an office. So really low wage employees who do not come into the tax net.
Oh, okay.
So they were under the radar of the tax authorities.
So the guy who's kind of earning 20,000.
Here is one example. You look at it. Mr. Masroor Anwar. He is depositing this in the name of Mr. Shahbaz Sharif. This is 1.6 million rupees. This was deposited in Habib Bank of Pakistan on 27th April 2017, when Shahbaz Sharif was the Chief Minister. This is another deposit, 13th May 2016, in the name of Mia Muhammad Shahbaz Sharif, an amount of 6,52,451 rupees deposited in an account by Mr. Masroor Anwar. This is a cash deposit, again done by Mr. Masroor Anwar. Another deposit, this is just one example. This 1 crore and 90 lakh rupees being deposited in the account of Mr. Shahbaz Sharif by Masroor Anwar. Now, you might ask, who is Masroor Anwar? Masroor Anwar, according to this investigation by the Federal Investigation Agency, was a low-level employee of Sharif family, and this investigation report fully details the role of these employees, that the bank employees were involved in that. Most of the private banks which were used, because sitting as the chief minister and your own family member is the finance minister, and your other brother is the prime minister, so then entire banking chain was there to facilitate them. And I was talking to one of the sources in the investigation, because once they investigated the bankers as to how it was happening under their nose and why they didn't stop all these activities, they said that people used to come with gunmen into the banks, and one of the females, the investigator, said she was crying, a banking official, that what we could have done. The bank managers, they used to get a call from top executives in the bank to do as such. Some of the bank banking managers were involved to an extent in this money laundering scheme that, for example, if you go to a bank and you deposit a cash of 1 million, they would say, why don't you deposit it into this account? So to cover up all those bribes being taken, money was covered up. The banks themselves were part of this nexus of covering up the corruption of the Sharif family. And this investigation report of about 4,300 pages, it gives all the banking transactions. It has the telephonic conversations and recording, the WhatsApp conversations and recordings of the banking employees. They're getting instructions from the top. That all that is part of this investigation of that elaborate cover up of the heist which was being done by the Sharif family, where money used to be collected in cash, and then to justify this banking layer, this veil was created, and that has been unearthed by the Federal Investigation Agency in Pakistan. You can see it for yourself. You can pick out any document and read it for yourself.
He has not yet been prosecuted.
He has not yet been prosecuted, and I doubt if he ever will be prosecuted, because the system in Pakistan is of dirty deals. The way the dirty deals were struck by General Pervez Musharraf, even now if you pick up or watch any of the primetime television shows, most of the topics are that Shahbaz Sharif, as leader of the opposition, he might be meeting some of the powers that be, and he is meeting other opposition parties to make a coalition and to topple Imran Khan. But once you look at the state as to why these cases are not proceeding for the past almost 3 years, the laws in Pakistan are such that the defense counsel, they make one excuse or another. Sometimes the prosecutor gets sick, sometimes the accused gets sick, sometimes the lawyer of the accused gets sick, and then dates are given, and then there are long periods of vacations of the courts which also come out, and then there's also so much other pending litigation. So instead of expeditious disposal of these cases, time is gained, and what Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz and Nawaz Sharif has learned, that even though if you are out of power, if you manage to gain time, and if you manage to delay the cases in the courts of law, and once you come back into power, you can manage to get a clean check. So I think this time also the same strategy is being followed by the Sharif family, and at this stage the cases are at the level of the accountability courts, or at the level of the banking courts, or the anti-corruption court. There is other level after this, which is the high courts, where they have a right of appeal, and then they have another right of appeal at the level of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So it might take them at least a decade if the cases continue and they do not come to power, there is not a change of government, and someone is actively pursuing these cases. But if time is on, they manage to buy time, and there is a regime change in Pakistan, I don't see any of these cases reaching their logical conclusions. And all these, like the Hudaybiyah paper mill case, they might again get technical justice in this.
We've seen in the FIA papers that there were like 100 witnesses who've been became part of this whole case. Is that another excuse of kind of getting this case delayed, because within the current existing system in Pakistan, it is almost impossible to get 100 statements from those witnesses? Is that like another way of getting this technical justice like it was did a few years ago?
Some of the people have been saying that by putting in 100 witnesses, the prosecution has actually weakened its case and given the time to the Sharif family that it can prolong these cases. And there were talks that people have been approached to give relief to the Sharif family, and this is one thing which the prosecution agency could do. I talked to some of the prosecutors, some of the sources in the investigation, and they said that the banking trail is so much that even if 1, 2 or 3 witnesses are not available, we can give the court ample opportunities to pick out 10, 15, 20, whichever witnesses they want to proceed with it. And once, if the documents are admitted, they would not need any of the other witnesses for verbal testimony before the court of law, because the documentary evidence is such, the banking trail is such that the witnesses can only be called, even 2 witnesses can be called to testify if these are original documents or not. Even the Sharif family can be confronted with these documents, with their banking statements, with their own banking record, if it is their banking record or not. And once they make this statement, if it is their record, or they challenge the authenticity of these banking documents, then those witnesses can come into play. So the first thing which the prosecutors would be trying is about the admission of these documents by the court of law, and Sharif family would definitely be trying to challenge the authenticity of these documents. And this is where the case stands as of now. And once these documents are admitted, then it might get pretty difficult for the Sharif family to proceed further, and the witnesses might only be called just to testify if the documents are original from verified sources or not. So it's prosecution strategy and what the defense comes up with it, whether they want to exhaust all the other 100 witnesses to gain time, and that obviously will be something which the judge has to decide whether to grant them this benefit or not.